We'll get going. All right, welcome everybody to this installment of the Not Just Basketball podcast. I'm your host, Nick Beauchene, with my guest for today, Ryan Martin. For those of you who are not familiar with Ryan, he'll introduce himself further later, but a couple accolades along the way. Ryan, two-time Maine state champion, Class B for Maranacook High School. He scored over 1,900 points while playing for Maranacook and was the 2009 Maine Mr. Basketball. 2008, whatever. Close enough. Long time ago, he was Mr. Basketball in Maine and then scored 1,300 points at Keene State after transferring there from playing 2 years at the University of Maine, Orono. Upon completing Ryan's college career, he went on and played professionally in Canada for 2 years and then again for the PBL out of Providence, Rhode Island. After suffering an injury that ended his career prematurely, Ryan started his varsity high school basketball coaching career in Maine, 2-year stint at Sanford, and just completed his first year coaching the Lake Region Eagles.
You're doing such a good job, too. Lake Region Lakers.
The Lakers, to a great first season under his coaching staff, and we're looking forward to building the program here going forward. Ryan, feel free to jump in and tell me a little bit about what things are like right now as the head coach at Lake Region High School, right, at varsity football.
A lot of promise for the whole program, I think. We had a lot of young guys coming up. We had just a young team in general. We had 3 seniors, but a group that got better every day, a group that was really fun to coach too. A bunch of kids who were just coachable and loved basketball. And it was exciting for, I think, the community to see them win a playoff game, which hadn't happened in about 3 or 4 years for that program. So we winning a playoff game, and then, of course, played my alma mater in the second round, Maranacook. Mm-hmm. And they're just a super tough team. And Cash McClure is, I think, one of the best players in the state right now. And, ran into a tough team. They went on to the state championship, and really they easily could have won the state championship this year too. But I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to work with them this summer, and then who knows what we can do next year.
You're starting to feel like you're building not just a good season, but a program here. You start seeing that responsibility and opportunity as a coach going forward to sustain the success of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the great coaches in Maine, I think, you know, they all spend a lot of time with their programs. Mike Adams did it at Little, Todd MacArthur at Winthrop. I mean, those guys are always working with the youth, and you know who the coach is from when you're in 3rd grade. And I remember last time talking to you, you talked about Coach Adams too, and how you knew him. And there's another guy you were talking about too, I think, last time we talked.
Yeah, we had mentioned my experience at Lewiston High School from 01 to 04.
And just how bad you wanted to play when you were growing up, right?
Yeah, it's just the belief instilled. I remember as an 8th grader when the head coach, Jason Fuller, had his first season, and just really completely turned around the feel of the entire program in 1 year. And it coincided with me finishing my middle school career and entering high school. And that summer, showing up to the first day of summer basketball with Coach Fuller and Coach Adams, Mike Adams, who at the time was Jason Fuller's assistant. This is back in the year. This is summer 2000. So they're in their early to mid-20s, both of them. And there was instantaneously this effect within my whole group of players and myself at the forefront of just like, I'll do whatever it takes for these guys.
Yeah.
There was this belief and confidence in the program that was instilled throughout. Like it reached far, which I thought was really important to the success that we had.
That's what all great coaches do that. Say it again, Nick.
relative success. We didn't have that much success, but we had fun, if nothing else. And that's what basketball, I think, is really truly all about, is those opportunities to have fun and work hard together with a group of people who are kind of sacrificing for one common goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of players too, just a lot of players want to be great basketball players, right? And we talk about that a lot too, and coaches talk about that a lot. And how many, I mean, there's some guys that really do want to become better basketball players, but don't know how to become better basketball players. They don't know what to do and don't really know the drills or just the things it takes to become a better basketball player. And I think some people just don't really have, most players I don't think have what it really takes, and they don't want to sacrifice the time to really become a better basketball player, which is okay. But it takes a rare individual to really want to become a better basketball player, and someone who understands what they need to do to become a better basketball player.
Now, I think when people hear a comment of they don't have what it takes, there's a tendency to kind of really take something like that personally and say, oh, what do you mean I don't have what it takes? You don't know me. I'm working very hard over here. So I don't appreciate hearing my son doesn't have what it takes. But coming from someone like yourself who proved time and again that they had what it took in terms of work ethic to really maximize potential as a basketball player, what do you mean when you talk about like what it takes?
Yeah, it's sacrifice. I mean, obviously you can become a better basketball player, but to really maximize your potential, it's giving up on seeing friends once in a while. It's giving up on, sometimes it might even be family time, might be giving up on a little bit of sleep sometimes. But if you have, I mean, for me, I had a regimen that I was made sure I'd stick to all the time. So if I had plans during the day, it means I'd have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning sometime, then I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just sticking to that and trusting, and really the belief of just knowing what you're doing is working.
Sure.
And if you truly believe what you're doing is working, then you're going to continue to do it, and you're going to continue to grind. And for me, the grind's not always easy. You don't always want to get up in the morning to work out. You don't always want to do that. But if you trust it and you continue to try to enjoy the grind, and you enjoy every single day, and you understand that it's a process of getting better, and you're not just going to get better like that all the time. There's ups and downs to getting better, and just fighting through that process and enjoying the whole time, enjoying the grind.
One of the things that I think you emphasized there was this belief that it was going to work, or that this was worth it because of why. What sort of payoff did you get that made you have that belief? You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of gaps.
That's a great. I think it's just seeing it pay off. It's seeing when I'm in middle school, and my first time ever really working out my basketball game was going into my 7th grade year, and I'd take 200 jump shots every day. That was my goal of my summer going in 7th grade. And then in 7th grade, I scored a bunch of points on 10-foot jump shots. And I was like, man, that was because of the work I put in during the summer. So I saw that work, and then just the more things you look into, and you find things that work, and you talk to the right people. Now I want to become quicker and stronger. So I talked to someone who's knowledgeable about that.
Sure.
And just trusting them, and then knowing that you're doing those things to become quicker and stronger. I'm doing those things to be a better shooter. Now I got to find things to become a better defender, find things to become a better ball handler. And it's just kind of a one-step process, but you trust in it, and you have fun with it too. I think a lot of players too, those rare players who do want to come better, and they do have the work ethic to become better, but then they lose the enjoyment and the excitement of the game, which is why you play in the first place. So making those workouts fun is important. And for me as a player, and what I try to do as a coach, is make any drill you do in practice challenging. So that way you're competing against yourself, you're competing against your teammates. And I think everyone loves a little bit of competition, but you're still enjoying the game.
Of course. Now, a lot of what you were talking about there was individual player development and being able to maximize your skill set as a member of a team, right? Because if you're doing all these things to make yourself better, how do you incorporate that into building better teammates, not just individual basketball talents?
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, yeah, being a good teammate, talk about understanding your role, which I think is hard. And I know my sophomore year of high school, I think this is answering your question, but my sophomore year of high school, we had seniors who probably put in the time more than us sophomores did, but they were able to sacrifice for the betterment of the team, sacrifice themselves, and understand they weren't going to play a lot, but they were okay with it. They were positive, and they were still great teammates, even though their role wasn't the best role. Their role wasn't to take 10 or 15 shots a game. Their role was to take 3 or 4 shots a game. Their role was not to play 32 minutes a game. It was to play 10 or 15 minutes a game. And when you have guys that just play their role well and do their job well, then that's how you're going to have the best team possible. In my sophomore year of high school, I do not think we were the most talented team in the state, but we had the best team chemistry in the state, and there's a reason why we won a state championship that year. And really, it was a lot to do with the 3 really good players we had in me, Mike, and Will, but I think there's more involved. And the tougher thing to do is having those seniors be leaders. And we had that in our team too, which is huge.
How did that transpire? Like, where was, if you can recall, this handing over, or this change of the guard, or this understanding that this was where the direction that this program was headed in? Do you remember that?
I think it was just a lot to do with the personalities of those seniors, of Jimmy Palmer and Dylan Collins and Bryce Spalding. 3 guys who just 17-year-old kids who just understood that there is better basketball talent with the younger guys. And I think Coach Schmidt did a great job too, which I learned a lot from him, is how he just celebrated all those little things that those guys did, and to make those guys feel like their role was important. Because they easily, with not a good coach, those guys wouldn't have felt important. But Coach Schmidt made sure that those guys felt important all the time. And whether it was Bryce Spalding on the bench, who had fouled out, scored 0 points, had a bad game, but then someone hits a big 3 in the game, he's on the bench all fired up. Like little things like that Bryce Spalding would do. That how many kids do you see do that now? Most kids now that are in foul trouble, not playing well, they're going to go to the end of the bench and they're just thinking about themselves. But kind of going off on a little tangent, I did see Peyton Jones from Thornton Academy this year.
Yeah.
I always respected him as a player, but I respected him even more this year as a player, watching him in the state championship game. When he fouled out, and it was, from what I saw, it looked like not – hold on, it's my dog.
Yeah, just pause it here and we'll pick up and I can edit this out. It's no problem.
That's all right. I'll figure it out after.
You're gonna have to show me though.
I will. Hold on.
You want to wait 2 seconds and then show me?
Yeah. All right, so we're back on now?
Yeah, we can be back on whenever. So we'll just pick up after Peyton Jones. Say the whole thing again.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, so what I noticed about Peyton Jones this year in the state championship game, he got a tough foul called on him, and it was his 5th foul at the end of the game. And easily he could have been a player that would have argued at the call. He could have been a player that went down to the end of the bench and just sulked. But I saw him give every single one of his teammates a high five on the bench, and then immediately crossed arms with all his teammates on the bench. And that, I got a whole new respect for him after watching that. I mean, he's a great basketball player, but if any college coach saw that too, I think they see a whole different side of Peyton Jones. And his level just went up that much because he has the talent, but he has that team player mindset too.
To be able to, as a player, and I was there at that game and I saw exactly what you described, of in that heat of the moment, to just to make the choice as a person that it's not just about me right now. My team still needs me. Right? And I'm going to contribute in any way I can. And if the only way that I can is to show that I'm still here 100% for everybody, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what, like, leadership and integrity is really all about, when you're still committed to the common goal, even when it's taken away from you.
Yeah, you
And
got
that
it.
kind of echoes back to the idea with your teammates at Maranacook, being able to sacrifice this individual shine in favor of this collective glow that the whole team has potential to become, if I'm willing to understand my role and do everything I can with that role to be as important a member of this team as I can be.
Right.
Right. And like you were saying, that we got to shout out your coach, Coach Rob Schmidt, in terms of being able to instill that program-wide understanding, right? That's what it's all about. This self-sacrifice in favor of team success, because you can get as many points as you want, but if at the end of the game the other team's celebrating, you can't leave there feeling good about it unless you're in basketball for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you're the guy, Nick, that I think knows a lot about leadership. I mean, you're the guy who talks about that a lot, and I listen to a lot of things you say about that. I think you're just super knowledgeable about all those things, and how much sports helps in the real world too. And
Sure.
I mean, I know you're doing a lot of things outside of basketball, not just basketball. So I know you're doing a lot of things other than that, and how important leadership is. And I know talking to you the other day too, we talked about how just like little things that are going on now in our world, and how some people are reacting compared to other people. And you see, like, I know I got the finger driving a couple of times for things that my car just broke down in the middle of driving. There's nothing I could do about it. And rather than someone asking if I was okay, you get the finger from people instead. And that's just because I think the mindset people are in now, or in the grocery store, and just the way people are on edge in the grocery store, and just a lot of things where anytime I see that now, I just say, he's not an athlete. She's not an athlete, because I think that they didn't have that. Like, athletes understand how to fight through adversity. And right now we're in a lot of adversity, and they learn how to be a great team player. And right now everyone's in this together. We're all a big team together.
Mm-hmm.
And how are we going to fight through this together as a team? We need people who are positive, and we need leaders. And right now there's some people are leaders and some people aren't. But I mean, I think you can talk to that more than I did.
Sure. The one thing I'd want to just maybe correct about what you were saying is that there may be some people out there who aren't athletes but still understand the value of being a member of a team, because there's teams that go beyond sports.
Right. That's just my saying that I do, which is
Yeah, absolutely.
right or not, but I just
No, I understand, but that's an example of like a parallel that you can draw from sports, where if you're a good teammate in a sport, you show ways that you can sacrifice to be successful as a team. But there are mock trial teams and debate teams and math teams and drama clubs that put on plays that work as a team and sacrifice individual time and effort and energy in favor of putting on a good show and competing together. So I think there's a lot to be said about people that are looking inward right now and are focused only on themselves and their problems. And that's a natural thing to do when you have a lot of problems. And everyone kind of does right now. Nothing's perfect for anyone at this time. Everything's changed. But to be able to, I think, understand and address your individual problems as best you can, and then look outward to see how other people are doing and maybe help them, and or they can help you, or you can team up to help someone else, type of thing right now is really crucial. And leaning on those skills that I think I learned in sport of grinding and collaborating and communicating I think I have become so much better of a communicator over my lifetime through my lessons learned communicating on the basketball court.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nick, let's change my saying then. Not he was an athlete, she was an athlete. It's gonna be he wasn't part of a team, or she wasn't part of a team.
Not being a good teammate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they're missing good teammates though too. Some people are feeling out on an island and they've got the ability to be a good teammate, but like it doesn't seem like there's a way to team up with anybody right now. Like you can't go give your mom a hug type of thing. And it's real tough. So it's easy and natural and not wrong to look inward and try to figure out ways to like just survive through these challenges. But I think a big key to that is going to be the ability for people to look outward and collaborate with each other to just like ease the burdens of one another and also expand the potential impact that one individual has to help others. If you team up with another, then you at least have 100% increase type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason why these podcasts are developing, I hope, into this conversation that people have around the lessons and values that basketball has taught them and ways to take it beyond the basketball court and transfer that knowledge to other environments, but also other people, right? Like it's incumbent upon people to then show what they've learned to others so that those other people can learn and get better.
Yeah, well, let's both talk about some of the ways that I know you were a big basketball guy. I think a lot of people that don't know me super well think that I'm just a basketball guy. The guys that know me real well, I'm just a sports guy and just love those sports tournaments that I run every summer that I know you love coming to. But I think let's just both talk about some of the things that basketball has done for both of us. So I want to hear from you, Nick. Tell me some of the things that some experiences you've had in basketball, some of your best feelings in basketball, some of your heartbreaks in basketball, and what it's done for you.
Okay, let me start off with a good thing from basketball. Why not? The past 3 years of basketball for me have been the best 3 years of my basketball career, in that the last year I was a part of the Lewiston High School boys basketball program as the JV head coach and varsity assistant coach, as you can see by my dripping swag here. Right? Earned. Go Blue Devils.
I like that.
But was a part of a really special season where there was a new coaching staff, Ronnie Turner, 28-year-old Lewiston Blue Devil alumni who is entrenched in the Lewiston community and has been since he was in elementary school, former professional basketball player, and really just the epitome of how good you can become as a basketball player, now takes over the helm of his hometown. And we are picked last and finished fifth, a fraction of a percent out of fourth, meaning we had to go play a rubber match game against Windham High School's 2-3 zone that had been a thorn in the side of the entire conference all season long. And we had gotten off of a 14-point win at Windham on their senior night and felt good about going back and winning again. And we were down 18 in the third, came back to tie the game at the end of 3 and take the lead in the fourth and just battle to an overtime loss at Windham, which was the most deflating, tough experience I've had in the game in a long time, was heading into that locker room after that loss, where we lost the opportunity to have a practice the next day and get ready to play against Edward Little, our rival, in the Civic Center, which that game was that was the ticket to do. And to head into that locker room and see just the deflation and just utter sadness about basketball being taken away was so tough, but so inspiring all the same. Like, what are we going to do next? We're not going to have that. This will not happen to us again because of what we're going to do to ensure that we don't have this feeling again. And kids the next day are sending group chat videos of 25 push-ups, started by the sophomore who had a costly turnover at the end of overtime at 5:30 in the morning the next day, sends a video to the group chat of him in his bedroom on the floor ripping off 25 push-ups, just saying, I'm ready, I'm still ready, the type of thing. Inspirational. Taking a step back from that, though, at a personal level, basketball-wise, the highest I've ever reached as an individual basketball player, I would have to go back 2 years to the end of my experience living in New York City, where in Brooklyn, the people in Manhattan would want to correct me and say, you didn't live in New York City, you lived in Brooklyn. Whatever. Lived in Brooklyn. I'll take Brooklyn over Manhattan any day anyway, but that's a whole nother story. My first year as a teacher and was ending and spring had started, I got a bicycle and just started ripping it through Brooklyn and Manhattan on my bicycle. And it was craziness at first, but I figured it out. And then it felt like I could go anywhere. I went to Brooklyn Bridge Park. And Brooklyn Bridge Park is this place on the East River that's directly to the south of the Brooklyn Bridge. And you can look to the right and see the Brooklyn Bridge. You can look to the left and see the Statue of Liberty. And then you can look across and see the Trade Center, the Freedom Tower, and all of the skyline, whatever. And there are these 5 outdoor courts and 4 courts with these awnings that covered them, where people there'd always be something on these courts. And sometimes that something was real high level basketball going on, 3-on-3 or 5-on-5 type of game you could get. And you show up at the right time and you're playing against a collection of 28 to 45-year-old men who've been playing basketball their whole lives, type of thing. Or this group of 14-year-olds who are balling. And you can pick up a game wherever. And I would just pick up games wherever. And I would get, I would last kid picked type of stuff, like who wants him? I would get slept on a lot early in this experience, but I didn't care. I was just like, I'm here to get a game. And when I got a game, like, I was having so much fun and working so hard because, like, I'm just living in the moment, getting to play basketball in Brooklyn Bridge Park type of stuff.
Right.
And I did that for like 6 months. And by month 6, I was just killing it. Going into these 5-on-5s, half court, full court, 3-on-3s, whatever, I would always show up and like people knew me now. And like a guy that I had met playing basketball recognizes me. Oh yeah, let's get, we got next type of stuff. And the guy I had played with for the first time a week ago, who I met at the park again randomly, like now we're teammates type of stuff. And it was so much fun. The most fun I've ever had playing basketball was this quasi high level street ball at Brooklyn Bridge Park.
You're 31 years old.
31, yeah. And I just pedal on in on my green bike. Maybe I was 3.8 miles into my day, which is the distance from my house to this park. Or maybe I was like 18 miles into my day on my bike. But I'd go to Brooklyn Bridge Park like every day. Screw it. It's a 2-mile detour, but I'll check it out, see if there's a run type of stuff. And it just reinstilled in me so quickly, like how amazing the game is, and how much joy it brings me, but also like how much joy it brings everybody. Like it brings people together. I met people on this court that I would never meet. Hey, kids took the 3 train from Harlem down to Brooklyn Bridge Park to see if they can get a good run. Okay, let's get a good run type of stuff. So it was eye-opening. And when I came back to Maine, I just have really been looking for opportunities to translate the love of the game.
Well, a lot of those things that you said there kind of make me think of how you have to get respect at a place like that, right? People that know you at first. And I know a lesson that I've learned through basketball is I've always grown up, always took pride in wanting to be the best basketball player, but I also always took pride in being a nice guy. That was something I always just wanted to be. And I think being a 19-year-old kid at UMaine and trying to win both of those was just an impossible task. And I think sometimes you have to separate those two. When you're on the basketball court, the nice guy doesn't really finish first.
Sure.
You can still be a nice guy off the court, but there's times where you have to stick up for yourself. And I feel like at UMaine, one of my biggest regrets there is that I was almost trying to make friends and not try to step on toes. I mean, I was still competing every day and going as hard as I could, but I think the mindset wasn't where it was later in my life and what I learned from at UMaine. Because I know when I'm trying out to play professional basketball and I'm 22, 23 years old, I'm playing against players that I think are better than players at UMaine and competing against them and eventually get drafted over them. But I think a lot of it was just because of my mindset going in. And I know in the combine, I had just been subbed out, and then I played for a few minutes and some guy tried to sub me out again. And I remember that moment right there. It's hard where naturally I want to be the nice guy and say, okay, I guess I'll go out. But for me, sticking up for myself there and just saying, no, I was just out. And then me having to bring the whole team together and figuring out, okay, whose turn is it to sit out? Because I just sat out. He just came on. So who's next? And I think coaches just seeing maybe me taking leadership there and me sticking up for myself there, I think made me a little bit higher on their list too.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot to gain someone's respect. And you definitely talked about how you had to do it in New York. And that was one lesson that I learned in basketball too. And now my mindset playing changed drastically from when I was 18, 19 years old at UMaine to from when I was 23 to now when I'm competing and playing.
And it's an honor to earn it too. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's nothing cooler than gaining respect through basketball. And I don't know, it's part of it also combines seeing the ball go in the net, which is really fun, or dropping a sick dime that on an angle that no one else saw, or making a great defensive play that leads to a sweet transition team bucket. There's so many potentials to just enjoy it. So the combination of the fun with the payoff of the respect is, in my opinion, one of the cooler gifts basketball gets to give people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, people ask all the time what it is you like about basketball. I like that answer that you just had. The feeling of seeing the ball go through the net, seeing that angle that no one else saw, making a great pass. And, I mean, for me, just being competitive, that's why I like all sports, because you're competitive and you're competing athletically and physically. But basketball also with the high speed of the game and the high scoring was something that always interested me. But also just how basketball, I always felt like was the easiest game. I don't know if easiest is the right word, but you could work on your game in basketball all the time. And all you needed was a hoop and a ball, sometimes just a ball. And that's all you need to get better at your game.
Your creativity and your commitment is all that limits you.
Right.
And if you have a ball. One of the things I'd like to transition to, and as we wrap up here, Ryan, is we were kind of beating around the bush with it about how basketball is just a part of athletic competition in general. And it's our favorite, but not the only ways that we've competed. And I'd like to bring up, for a couple reasons, your summer competitions that you've hosted at your house.
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you who have not been there, Ryan Martin in Wayne, Maine, hosts on Androscoggin Lake at his family's house this athletic decathlon where 10 events, really 10 tournaments are set up over the course of 2 days where people compete for the right to lose to Ryan at the end. And this was dominated by Ryan.
You're right.
For the first 3 years, every competition, it was just who's getting second and third. But it expanded to team competition where groups of 2 would show up to Ryan's house for this weekend, or 12 groups of 2 usually. And we'd have team tournaments. And can you tell us a little bit about how that started, Ryan, and how you and your dad created this monster?
My dad has a shirt that says 1992 Olympic champ on it. And I remember when I was, I think in college, I was 20 years old, and I saw it for the first time. So I asked my dad what it was. And he told me that my uncle, my mom's brother, hosted a little tournament for them that was just one day, and they had 6 events, and there's only 6 of those guys, and he had a T-shirt for winning it. So then I just kind of brought it to the next level where I wanted to get more than 6. I wanted to get 16 guys. So that was I was thinking of college basketball tournaments. I wanted to start at the Sweet 16. So I got 16 of my friends to come that first summer, and I wanted 10 events. So we did it then, just like that. And then I wanted to put some money involved in it too, to make it a little bit more competitive. And then,
which is not necessary, kids. You can do all this for free and for fun.
That's true. But yeah, and then like you said, just we added to it the next year, having doubles, and then added to it again, where now every summer it's singles, doubles, and a co-ed weekend as well.
So to give an example of how these events unfold, you show up at Ryan's house sometime before noon, and when everybody's finally there, either for the solo, or let's go with the team tournament story here for a reason I'll get to later. You show up with your teammate, and then you drive straight to the elementary school where you play a 2 out of 3 kickball tournament. And you separate the teams into teams of 2 teams, right? So groups of 2 form, 4 groups of 2 form a group of 8 that competes against another group of 8 in a 2 out of 3 kickball 5-inning. And at the end of this first round of game of kickball, half the group has all the points and the other half had none of the points. And then what happens, Ryan?
I mean, it's different every summer, but it can go into either badminton or ping pong or home run derby. There's can jam. There's all kinds of games that you can play next. But
Polish horseshoes, volleyball.
Over the course of 10 years, we've done over 60 different events. So just if you can name a sport, we've probably done it.
It's the truth. It's the truth. And it's amazing how well organized and systemized this is, where in each of these tournaments, because it's not all the kickball where half the teams are competing against each other, all the other events are broken down into these brackets, double elimination brackets always, where you compete in this mini tournament for the rights to get as many points as you can in the badminton tournament.
Right.
So each win in the losers bracket is worth 1 point, and then each win in the winners bracket is worth 2. Is that how we do it? Yeah. And so you can compete and bust your tail to get back into the whole weekend because you had a good badminton tournament. And it's really just well-rounded competition where teams are grinding it out and just laying it all on the line during this weekend. It's not just to go have fun and have burgers at Ryan's house. There's a lot of effort exerted over the weekend. One of those weekends, just quick aside, my teammate Dave Labonte, who deserves the shine here, and I won first place in Ryan's men's team tournament. Do you remember this weekend, Ryan? No, I didn't think you would. Ryan didn't win this weekend, and we'll set up another one where I just tell the story of maybe my greatest athletic achievement, which was when David Labonte and I showed up as a couple 30 something over the hill once athletes, well, maybe just me and Dave, who was still an athlete and won this tournament. Just still proud.
Who was my partner? Do you remember?
It was Ryan McFedrin. And it was a close competition. We battled all the way through the weekend. We'll see if there's any footage. If there is, audience, we'll put it up for you later on of the birdie ball golf competition in the morning. But the reason why I wanted to go on this little tangent is opportunities to get creative in competition going forward with the challenges we're facing and the new normal of uncertainty with when are we going to get to work with kids. So looking back on that weekend and those times where I got to go compete and was always looking forward to it every summer because of just getting to be out there and have fun and compete. How do we get creative here in the neighborhoods and in individual communities so kids are still having fun?
Yeah, I mean, where I live in Lyman, we're putting together a little field day for just the kids in the neighborhood here. And I'm trying to do games where you try to distance yourself as much as possible, but it's still a ways for kids to move and kids to still practice their hand-eye coordination and different motor skills too, and to enjoy competing against each other. And those are things that kids love to do, and you don't want to take that away from them. So realizing we're going to be safe with it too, but just finding creative ways, like you said, where we can be outside and we can be physically active and enjoying each other's company.
Sure. And I think like collaborating, communicating with each other, the importance of working together and having conversations is really an underappreciated aspect of what we're missing somewhat here. Is just by being around people, you interact with them and you communicate with them, and then just sometimes by necessity you work with them. And by not being able to do that as much, it's really, a lot of people are leaning into ways to be creative online and giving platforms and programming for people to access online where they continue getting better. I'm hoping these types of conversations will contribute to that, but I think that it's just one part of the whole puzzle, and everybody's got a piece.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to continuing thinking about ways to be creative here, where you can combine athletics and competition with other sort of extracurricular and co-curricular activities where kids are getting better academically too, but also getting better at the extracurricular activities that they like to do that aren't just sports. Because a lot of kids are missing their clubs and camps too that aren't being governed by whistles and games type of thing. So it's gonna be a lot of thinking and collaborating to get ways to get these kids what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of things, like you said, communication and collaboration is huge. And you can kind of, the good thing about being a PE teacher now is a lot of people are putting things on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kind of growing up, you always think like stealing and taking things from someone is not the right thing to do. But people now are being open to that and realizing they're putting things online for people to take it. And that's okay to do now. And same thing with great coaches and great players. You steal from other people to become the best you can be. And that's
it's not stealing if they're sharing. Right.
But I mean, just in general, too, you hear about Kobe Bryant stealing all Michael Jordan's moves.
Of course.
He did that because he wanted to become as good as he could be. And coaches try to steal from all the best coaches too, so they can become the best coach they can be.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how we become better collectively, and how we're gonna find great things for kids to do. Is that if we talk to each other and we steal ideas that other people have, or take the ideas that other people have shared. But just like you said, it's underappreciated, just having this communication, having this conversation with people, so we can find the best ways to go about this.
Absolutely. And I think I'm really looking forward to continuing it. One thing, you said his name, and I got to say something about Kobe in terms of something I've stolen from him. Rest in peace, Mamba. But when Isaiah Thomas for the Boston Celtics was getting ready for a first round playoff series, game 1, and suffered the tragic loss of his sister in a car accident. I don't remember who the Celtics were playing. It might have been the Chicago Bulls in the first round, but his sister died in a car accident a night or two before game 1. And obviously he was heartbroken. And as he was getting ready to play, everybody was shocked that he was going to play game 1. Later on, this story came out that he got a call from Kobe, and they talked on the phone, and Isaiah attributed his heroic performance, at least in part, to what Kobe said to him, where he talked about the idea of channeling and becoming a lion. And when you're a lion and you're on the hunt, you are so singularly focused on achieving the goal that is necessary for you to eat and for you to feel good about yourself and provide. And you are so singularly focused on that nothing stops you and nothing distracts you. There can be 1,000 flies buzzing around your head and landing on your eyelids, and you do not notice because you are so singularly focused on achieving your goal. And I had goosebumps the first time I heard it. I every time I think about that metaphor that he dropped on Isaiah, that Isaiah was able to channel into a performance of the ages and a demonstration of how, if you are singularly committed to something, whether it's being great in basketball or it's overcoming an obstacle in life, like, you can do amazing things if you're focused. And that's something I hope will continue echoing on from Kobe Bryant.
I like it.
I had to share it. Really appreciate, Ryan, you making the time again.
You got it.
And I think that we'll have to do this a lot more often. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Thanks,
All right.
Nick.
I appreciate you.
All right, Jeff.